Hello and welcome to another episode of Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones. And Into the Afroverse is where we're taking Black folks into the future. You know, when I talk about Afrofuturism, I always talk about it encompassing so many different areas of people activity. And we've had artists, we've had authors, we've had filmmakers on this show to discuss the way that they've incorporated Afrofuturism into their arts, into their creativity. We've also had intellectuals talking about Afrofuturism from a more academic standpoint. But today, we are joined by Boshia Rae-Jean. And Boshia Rae-Jean is an international model, hip-hop diplomat, and multidisciplinary artist from Newark, New Jersey. Boshia Rae-Jean is an international model, hip-hop diplomat, and multidisciplinary artist from Newark, New Jersey. Boshia is the lead brand consultant and COO of OPPY-MCO, that's OPPY-MCO, the Muslim futuristic creative consulting firm, and creative director at the Young Black Muslim Law, aka YBM podcast. By prioritizing sisterhood, mental health, and birth advocacy, Boshia's lived experience in hip-hop and Rastafarian culture inform her natural being. She roots herself in traditional Islamic arts and science, and she's a refreshing and eclectic human striving to worship Allah with perfection in everything she has been gifted to be. And with that, I would like to welcome Boshia Rae-Jean to Into the Afroverse.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to conversate and really converse about like what the dynamics are between, being an artist, being a model, Afrofuturist. Like, what are all of these things connected, and how is it expressed through Afrofuturism?
Excellent, excellent. One of the things that I wanted you to speak to, and I'm looking at your bio here, you're an international model hip-hop diplomat. You're a multidisciplinary artist. I've seen your poetry online, and I know that you also deal with music, and you're hailing from Newark, New Jersey. Can you speak a little bit about how you got started in this field?
So first, I definitely want to say I'm grateful to the experience that I've like gone through. Like that guide has like really like put me on the trajectory of like experiencing all the things I've experienced. I think it was, it's so funny you asked that because I feel like it was definitely my mom. My mom was like a stage mom. So she put me in dance. She wanted me to be very like, cultured in a way, like where I understood music and, I dance and performance art. She took me to like different Broadway shows and live shows. And she had me involved in a lot of extracurricular activities. So I would definitely say my mom interested me into the art world because she would drop me off to dance, even though I didn't want to go. I didn't want to do those things. I just like, be at home playing, drawing on the sidewalk with chalk. I didn't really want to like go.
Right.
But my like, this is good for you. It's going to be great. And then over time, I started to, when you're a kid, you don't know what you want. Like, you know what I mean? So like, you just want to experience fun. You like fun is your world. And it's like, if it's fun, then cool. And I think like my mom really wanted me to find it fun. And I think in the beginning I didn't because I was awkward. I didn't really know how to move my body. I didn't know how to, be. And then I think later on, my mom was like, oh, you could possibly model, I was like, maybe, I don't know. And introduced me to different people, like, and tried her best to like support me in that. And then after a while, like when I became like 15, 16, I was like, I want to be a Disney Channel. I want to do all these different things. And yeah, I think just really my mom was the start of it for me. I think just really pushing me and being that foundation for me to experience like a disciplinary artistic class consistently and like really taking on the discipline on my own after a while.
Right. And what is it about this field that really speaks to you and has like kept you in it? And how long have you been a part of this industry?
Well, I've been a part of the entertainment industry since like I could remember. I think professionally since I was like 13,
Mhm.
12, and I started to work. I started to like um, really just start my own dance classes. I had at that point I've been dancing for 10 years. I started dancing when I was 3, and I really just wanted to like do my own choreography and like do my own thing. And I see it as a place where I'm able to really world build, like I think anybody who is interested about what's happening next, what's going to happen, like what's the next thing to come, I feel would be interested in like really seeing what that looks like artistically and also just like visually. So I think the interest came from being able to make something of my own, being able to choreograph, being able to, connect with people and take photos, make images that were like stunning and like also telling a story about who I am. And also just really being intentional about everything because with that I was able to actually see the visions that I would have and things the ideas I would have and mood boards that I would like make come to life, and it definitely was a labor of like love and passion in the beginning. It wasn't something that, oh yeah, I'm a professional artist. No, I was a starving artist for a while,
Right.
and I figured out that I don't have to do just one art to define myself. I don't have to be just like, oh, I'll go to school for graphic design, become like somebody who works for a graphic design, agency or a creative agency, but really just utilize all these things to define who I am and make something that was expressive of what who I wanted to be and what I was trying to, express was really like who will I be in the future? Who will I be, just overall like what impression will I leave for the future generation? So I think that that's what really kept me going was just like understanding that there's like this is bigger than me and there's a
Right.
future that really like it aligns with, my passions and I can turn these passions into projects that will like stand the test of time, I think.
I like that. And I also appreciate the fact that you speak to future generations. A lot of people, when they look at the beauty industry and they look at modeling and, the like, one of the criticisms is that it plays upon, especially young women, it plays upon their self-esteem and so forth. And it may take advantage of it, it may exploit it. But one of the things that I like about what you're doing is it seems to uplift young women. How are you able to do what you do, but at the same time see to it that it's not maybe exploiting young ladies' insecurities or anything like that?
That's a good question. I really like how you worded that, and I think like the way the beauty industry is set up, it is set up for you to be a consumer of product so that you can be more beautiful. Like, right?
Mm.
So, and understanding that, knowing that it's a platform where it's just changing because people also may have like acne or may have like hyperpigmentation. And I talk about those things. Like I talk about those things with clients I work with. And I'm very like honest about like my, like the development of my inner beauty. And that's the only way people, oh, people like, oh, you're so beautiful. Really, like that is the creator that made me that way.
Right.
But even if the creator made anyone that way, like even the fact that the creator made everyone that like the way that they are, the person has to have an understanding of their inner beauty to shine through. So I think like the industry is definitely geared to like people to purchase and buy and become
Mhm.
consumers. But with what I do, I bring in my understanding of who I am. And that is why a lot of clients like want to book me because they see I'm not like, oh, this average beauty person influencer that's like, oh, yeah, this is the product and you should use it for this. No, I'm really like here to be a light and like to remind people like the beauty that you see on the outer would never ever be seen if my personality didn't come through that, because people could be beautiful but like really do ugly things, you know.
Right.
Like, so I think that the main thing is, you know, intrinsic motivation, reminding women, especially women that look like me, Black and brown women, like that they are capable of, you know, being beautiful without the beauty industry standards. Because, you know, I remember one day I was walking into a store, and actually it was Sephora, and I think at the time there was a campaign up in there, and this girl who I like went to go purchase something, and I went to the counter, and she was like, "Oh, you're so beautiful," and I was like, "So are you." And she didn't even hear me. And I was
Wow.
like, "Did you hear me?" And she was like, "Huh?" I was like, "So are you?" And she just started crying. She said, "No, I'm not." And I was like, "Who told you that?" And I was like, "Who told you that you're not beautiful?" I was like, "I see you." And, you know, I just looked at her, and the tears were just rolling down her face. And it just made me tear up, because I was like, wow, like this industry really makes people think. And she works in like the number one beauty store.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, and I realized at that moment that when people see my face in these stores, or you know, in these beauty campaigns, like I'm not only representing Muslim women, because that's the thing, is like, right, Muslim women who feel like, oh, I need to take off my hijab, or I need to be like, oh, I need to remove it because no one's going to accept me. But really just being like, no, like this is the face of a believing woman. I'm keeping my scarf on. And this is a silent prayer between me and God. And I find people who are not Muslim too beautiful. I could see their souls, because it's really about the essence of a human. It's not anything to do with their outer beauty, because somebody, like I said, could be beautiful on the outside, but their soul could be dark. And so meeting someone and seeing through their eyes that they are a good person, like I see their beauty, like it's like an innate, intrinsic thing. And so, you know, working with different brands has been very helpful, and having these conversations has really helped me to connect to different brands, like, you know. And I love working with them, because they really see that there's a necessity for this inner beauty understanding. And that's something I represent, you know, the inner beauty,
Right.
because it always come out on the outside with products, makeup, whatever. No matter how you look, makeup can make you look a completely different person, you know what I mean?
Right.
But like the inner beauty is what matters.
Now, before we get back into the conversation with our guest today, I want to talk about one of this episode's sponsors. Here at Into the Afroverse, we often talk about the various mediums of art and storytelling and how they can be used for positive social change, especially for Black people worldwide. Well, in the city of Philadelphia, known for its arts and culture, a fantastic organization called Mural Arts Philadelphia believes that art ignites change. Because of their work, Philly has become the mural capital of the world. You should travel there to check it out. Listen to this message from Mural Arts.
For over 35 years, Mural Arts Philadelphia has focused on using art not just to beautify, but as a means to provide creative solutions to address Philadelphia's most challenging issues. From giving a second chance to justice-impacted individuals, to welcoming immigrants and refugees with open arms, to amplifying the voices and ideas of the next generation. Mural Arts continues to inspire and empower. We believe in the transformative power of creativity. Art is more than just paint on a wall. Art ignites change.
And if you're just joining us, we're here with Boshia Rae-Jean, who's an international model, hip-hop diplomat, and multidisciplinary artist here on Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones. So you mentioned, and anyone that follows you and is familiar with your work, they know that you are a Muslim. Have people found it odd or strange? Do they question you? Do they see it as a contradiction even? How are you able to merge your spiritual life with your work?
I it's still something I'm figuring out.
Mm-hmm. Got you.
Yeah, William, like I feel like you know what it is. It's like you either evolve or you die. And
Mm-hmm.
if you understand that that is the main part of who you are, like your soul, your essence is who you are. Your soul craves to evolve. Like it's a normal, natural, intrinsic thing that your soul needs. Else you're going to spiritually die because,
Right.
you know, like you're not seeking, you're not becoming a seeker of knowledge and wanting to know more, you know. And so I think that the main way that it's coming together, because, you know, I've been living in the Muslim world for some time now. So like I lived in Yemen for a bit. I'm living in Egypt now. Um, and I think being here has really helped me to understand who I am, you know, just as a soul. And how does that go into, like, you know, my creative like life, and that goes into me as a model, and me, you know, wanting to understand, you know, spirituality, connecting that to what is, like, really just like what is. And like what I'm saying is like the existence of human being is just like it's always going to be what is. And so it's never going to be something like we always like fully deeply understand unless we seek knowledge. It's a science, you know what I mean?
Right.
So and what I'm doing is a science. You know, you can't have art without science. And I think, like, you know, psychology is a great way to understand, but also, like, you know, just understanding like how I've been put in the places I've been put. So the merging of everything is coming together through God's will. I don't know how it's working, but
Right.
I'm doing it with the intention that I want to leave something behind. You know, I've been working on a book for a while, an Afrofuturistic graphic novel for a while. And being here has really helped me to like dive into understanding of the character story and who she is, because she is me, but I am nowhere near her, because she is like an understanding of like who I could be in the future, or who I am in another realm.
Right.
So knowing that like I'm able to experience like this here. You know, I haven't been modeling since I've been living in the Muslim world since July. I have been,
Okay.
you know, working on some projects, but you know, that's something that I love doing, and it's there when I, you know, go back to the States, or if I wanted to work over here. But I really took this time to reflect on who I am as a soul.
Right.
And so spiritual part of it is just, it's the actual essence of everything that I do. It's the core of everything. And if I didn't take this time, I would be, everything I would do would be inauthentic, because it would just wind up being about, okay, this is who I am as an Afrofuturist. This is who I am as a model. This is
Right.
versus I am just Boshia, you know,
Right.
and you know, or I'm just like a soul and I'm existing and being pulled in these different directions because that's the way God ordained it. Like I'm not trying to, you know, like force anything. I'm just
Right.
existing. So I think that that's the interesting question. I've never once answered a question where I'm like, well, I don't know how it's coming together.
Right.
Always have an answer for everything, but that's the genuine aspect of it. Is like I don't know. Like, you know
I
what I mean?
appreciate that. No, I appreciate that. And speaking of your projects, can you speak to the business side of your life? I see that you are a brand consultant and a COO and a creative director. Can you talk a little bit about that, and also tell us how we can reach you and how can folks find you?
Yeah, for sure. So I started Upline Co. in 2018 because I felt that there was a need for like a Muslim futuristic, you know, agency that really was able to speak to not only like African folks as like Muslims, but Muslim women that were trying to understand who they wanted to be. And it's always about who we want to be. It's always about the future tense, because like the future is like 2 minutes from now, right? So
Right.
it's always about you being your competition and you being the person to, you know, better yourself. And so the creative agency is to help inform people how to really direct their brands in a way that, well, if you want to bring a Muslim client into, you know, your actual understanding of your brand information, that you would need to do these things. If you want to bring a Muslim model, or, you know, like a person that's coming from a Muslim background into like, you know, your actual brand focus, like, you know, for instance, like people like Forbes, 30 under 30, they bring a lot of like different people, but they've only had a couple Muslims over the last, like, maybe I would say 20 to 25 years. It's probably only been like 3 or 4.
Right.
And so brands like this, or like, beauty brands that I've worked with, it's all about me consulting them on what would look like, what would be respectable, and as well as understanding that there is, you know, this futuristic styling aspect creatively, that this image can last a long time if you style it like this, because this is actually the way that people will see themselves, and just understanding socially like how people see themselves. Because even before everyone started being in the metaverse, like I remember like when I put out my character, like that's like really a just a virtual reality of me, right? And it's just so interesting. Like now everyone's like into the metaverse, and I'm like, no, take me to like a third world country, literally like take me to the streets of like,
Right.
like desert, and I'd not even want to be a part of it right now, because I feel like that the future is what's traditional. It's always going to be something that stands the test of time. You can build something new, but all those things that you build new have to come from a source, and it's always going to be taken from that source, like that traditional, ancient, like understanding, our history. So that's really what Apple Co is about. And like the business side is just all about, making sure that everything is tight. And that's one thing that I talk to a lot of women about, and a lot of, you know, um, especially my friends that want to start business, because I feel like a lot of the things that we have an issue with within the African American community is understanding business and how to really make sure that it's done right, so that we to have a livelihood off of our business. And so that's something else that I really love doing, teaching the creative branding, but also like business branding. How does that look, and how can you sustain a brand from this image or this logo or this understanding of like brand information and creative branding. So I really love doing that. I've been doing that for so long, and I went to school for graphic design and all of those things, but now I'm just really understanding it. Being a model, being behind the scenes was like the beginning part of it, but being in front of it now is like, wow, like now I understand the full circle of everything. And so I just hope that I could be able to help people, help, the Muslim community, help Black people who are trying to really, do something that's never been done before, something that has that traditional flavor, but is definitely for the future generations to be like, wow, like this still is like, I'm still learning from this, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's the intention of Apple. And you can definitely find me on BoshiaRae-Jean.com. That's my personal website. On Instagram, it's Boshia Rae-Jean, BoshiaRaejean. And you can also find me on Apple. That is the actual creative agency's website. And I'm literally like Googleable. So you can type in my name and you can find everything, if that makes it easier. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this, and connecting with you and building with you.
No, thank you. Thank you. Because like I said, I have seen your work and we started a rapport online. So I'm just glad that you were able to join us. Here on Into the Afroverse, we talk about Afrofuturism. That's really the theme of the show. And that's also part of what you do. How are you able to incorporate Afrofuturism, and how has it influenced your work?
So Afrofuturism is basically who I see myself as, and what I see myself as is like basically someone who, if I was in, this realm, who would I be? And like now I want to bring her to like the reality. So Afrofuturism for me is basically understanding my history, knowing that and bringing that into everything that I do with informed intelligence, understanding, the science behind everything. Because Afrofuturism is highly, like, it's a very, very intellectual, form of living, and like just a form of being. I think that people take it for like an art form, but it's not. It's it's a way of life and how people kind of see themselves, and how it is, an ism, quote unquote, but like it really is all about the Afrofuture. Like when you talk to an Afrofuturist, they're literally trying to find ways to support the next generation through producing media content, visuals, writing. So it's really about producing and making. And that's one thing that I love about, Afrofuturism, and in general, being an Afrofuturist requires me to understand that I want Black people to exist in the future. I want my folks to exist in the future, and I want them to be the ones to build that future. And so being a part of that is like, literally, I have to do the work. I have to do the spiritual work. I have to be able to understand who I am, because I can't help anyone until I help myself. And so, like, understanding, like, the depthness of, the love and the understanding of just the African nation in general, the historical, like, tribal, things that you learn from different, like Yoruba, Ashanti tribe, Wolof, like Jolo, like all these different tribes that really define a nation
Right.
in their own right, and then you have the full continent that really is so vast and varies in different languages and is very highly intellectual with making, the future happen. How many people think that there was somebody who was, a white person that made a computer communicate with another one, but really it was a Black person. It was an
Right.
African Ghanaian man. And so, like, we think about technology as like, oh, this is something new that we're making in America, but like Africans been ahead of the game. They've been,
Right.
and wanting to be a part of something that's already been started by my ancestors, and wanting to be a part of, like, building that future, I think is so imperative, because like I just see, you know, Afrofuturism as a way of understanding who I am even more. And in order for me to do that, I have to want to be with my people and understand my people and know what the problems are, what are the things that we're up against. And getting to that point is like, you see the connection of really a mother to her child. That is the Afrofuture. You know what I mean? And the mother to her child, to a Black man in that family as well. Like, so that's the Afrofuture that was always trying to be taken from us. So like, I think mainly just really fighting and combating what that looks like today, but also understanding that, informing people about the history. Because you can't have an Afrofuture, you can't have Afrofuturism without the history. It's just like, there's no way. And when we move on, we go to technology, Afrotech, we get into like different things, understanding and stimulating our minds with, oh, these are the new, inventors. We forget about our history, and we have to recover before we jump to the next thing, because if we don't recover and understand it, then the future can be dismantled quickly. So Afrofuturism is about really researching and understanding the history of the African continent, understanding the history of America, what African Americans have put into it, and what Black folks have put into every single nation, every single place that they've gone and migrated to, how they've contributed to it, and how it somehow seems to be missing from history.
Right.
Like, so this is how I bring Afrofuturism into everything that I do, because it is an argument, it is a conversation in how I am and how I dress, how I present myself, what I want to talk about, what I like understand from my own research. That's literally like how I bring Afrofuturism to everything I do.
No, that's excellent. That's excellent. And once again, if you're joining us, this is Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones, where we're taking Black folks into the future. And today we are joined by Boshia Rae-Jean. So, we have these great conversations, and, the better the conversation, the more the time flies. And as we're starting to close out, and once again, I want to thank you for joining us today. And I'm sure that hopefully I've introduced you to some brand new folks, and they'll be reaching out to you. Are there any final thoughts you'd like to leave us with? Anything that you'd like to share? Any recommendations? I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that want to get into the industry. Anything that you'd like to offer in these closing minutes?
Definitely. So I offer creative branding workshops. So they basically start in the spring. And so you can look out for those to really brand, if you are looking to brand an Afrofuturistic brand, any brand that is something that will stand the test of time and that will be here long before you, like long before you're gone or long after you're gone. That's something that, I do as far as like Appa and co-creative consulting. But just really want to say that our souls are immigrants to this earth. We are going to return and we're going to travel into another realm. And that now is a time to leave your stamp. Now is the time to do. Don't talk, just do. And then discuss about how things, are done. But no more being consumers. Being producers is the way that we can build the Afro future.
Excellent. And thank you again so much for joining us today. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones. Remember, you can follow Into the Afroverse. You can check us out on Twitter, Facebook, under Afrofuturism Network, which is the umbrella company. And you can also email us at intotheafroverse@gmail.com. So one more time, this is Into the Afroverse with William Jones, signing off. And a special shout out to Mr. Duke Productions for producing today's episode.